What's up, everybody? Mark with Cardivox Academy here, and today I'm pretty excited because, as far as I know, this Aftermath by the Black Dahlia Murder is the first official song released since Brian Eschbach, I'm not sure how to say it, stepped up and did vocals for the band. Now, if anybody watching this is new to the Black Dahlia Murder, I've been getting a lot of new fans on the channel, many of which are of the younger generation, people who are just like, a lot of people are telling me like, hey, I just recently got into metal. I've never heard of much of this stuff before. So while for people my age, the Black Dahlia Murder, it's like, of course you've heard of them. A lot of people haven't. So just to kind of give a little bit of background, the Black Dahlia Murder is one of the most iconic metal bands since the year 2000. Essentially, their previous vocalist, who unfortunately died, Trevor was his name, was one of the vocalists that all vocalists tried to emulate. Right, Trevor was essentially the vocalist of metal for a very, very long time. And after he died, it was pretty rough on a large part of the community, and we weren't really sure what was going to happen with the Black Dahlia Murder. I think all of us were basically like, yeah, it's okay if they decide to take a break or not continue on. But then we learned, I think the announcement was made about a year ago, 2 years ago, that Brian, one of the founding members and the original guitarist of the band, was stepping up to do vocals. I personally have never heard him do vocals before, so I'm very excited to see where this song is going to take us, what this song is going to be like, how his vocals are going to sound, because if you're new to the channel, my name is Mark. I am a vocal coach, specifically focused on harsh metal vocals. As my full-time job, pretty much 6 days a week, I teach people how to do, safe and efficient singing and screaming so they can meet their metal vocal goals and do a lot of cool stuff. I'm also in a metal band myself. The band is called Kardashev. We are on Metal Blade Records, and the music is quite different, but maybe you'll like it if you want to check it out. And I take the reaction format here. I break it down. I focus on being educational, right? I forgot to put on my fancy purple lights. What am I doing? It doesn't matter. But essentially, the goal here is to make the reaction format both educational and entertaining, right? I want to be able to help people learn about their voice while also helping them have fun. So anyway, that's pretty much all I have to say. Aftermath, the Black Dahlia Murder, very excited, not sure what to expect, but from what people have been telling me, it's pretty rad. So let's do it. Months after the Faces sent an asteroid. Crafty ape. There we are. Okay, that's a good place for us to already pause. Like I said, I make these reactions educational, so if you don't like pause in 1, 2, 3, get out of here. Get out of here. You can say anything in the comments. I won't change my ways. Haven't yet, will never. But let's talk about these vocals here real quick. First of all, these vocals are awesome. They're definitely, this is kind of a weird thing to say, but they're definitely the right thing for the band, right? I was like, am I going to hear something totally different? Are my ears going to be able to adjust to new vocals? And the answer is absolutely yes, right? One thing that I'm finding really interesting about Brian's vocals, and one things that I really like, are that they are, as far as metal vocals go, fairly low pressure, right? Oftentimes when we're doing vocals, we think we need a ton of pressure in order to do them. And while it is true that we can, utilize our pressure, and when I'm talking about pressure, basically, I'm talking about the airflow being resisted by whatever source or mechanism we're using to create the distortion. A really good way to illustrate this is I can use my lips so you can visually see. You can't see you can't see what's going on in there, but you can see my lips, right? So if I take my lips and I low pressure, high pressure, we can utilize that same idea, that same theory, I guess you could say, with our vocal distortion, with our metal vocals to create different tones, right? So I can do like a high pressure, or I can do a lower pressure, and you can hear that the low pressure vocal has a chunkier sound, right? And with what I'm hearing from Brian, This is a very chunky sound and I like it. There was a little bit of pitch on that high scream that I'm sure we'll hear again and we'll investigate. But yeah, these vocals, again, I'm not in the studio with him, so I could be wrong, but probably not. Just watch. That's the moment I'm wrong, when I'm a little too overconfident. That would be some poetic justice, wouldn't it? But these vocals sound like they are the type of vocals that feel not much more difficult than talking, right? And that's very true for a lot of vocals. You know, this like, he's definitely got a very straightforward articulation, a very straightforward tone, right? You know, kind of just barking the vocals on tempo. Barking, by the way, is not necessarily a bad thing. I said that once about a band. I was like, yeah, he's really barking the tone. And they're like, oh, it's more than just barking. And I was like, okay, rein it in. I'm just talking about the staccato method of delivery. Let me mute my phone. Sorry, guys. But anyways, yeah, overall, very cool. Super riffy, like I would expect from the Black Dahlia Murder. Let's keep going here. Damn, he is a hell of a vocalist. like I said, if there are recordings of him doing vocals out there, I've not heard them. He's a hell of a vocalist. Like that airflow and that balance was unreal, right? Very much just kept going pa 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 pa, right? And you're not going to do that without a lot of balance, and you're not going to do it safely without like a very, very solid placement, I guess you could say. But yeah, so I'm hearing again a lot of like really low pressure stuff. One thing that I found kind of distracting, not in a bad way, but because I've never really seen it before, was he had like this sort of like when he was doing his lows. And normally often when we hear lows, we think of either puckered lips or curled in lips, so like a or a but he had like this, it sounded like he was taking that, which is a high vocal. And again, I'm just hearing it for the first time, so I could be wrong. I'm sure he'll do it again in the song. But it sounded like he was taking that high and tilting it down and like using the lips to somehow help him bring that into a lower space, maybe? Kind of like that, except I sound like crap and he sounds cool doing it. So I don't know. But super interesting. All of this distortion is sounding all of this grit is sounding like it's very high, tucked up in the back of the mouth, right? And that's a really important goal. And that's a sign of a very accomplished vocalist, when they can hold these tones for a very long time and not feel a bunch of gravel and grit here, but feel it at or above the back of the tongue. A lot of that's going to come down to our vocal tract shape, right? Versus or right? That's a way that you can, if your vocals are hurting, if you're at home and you're like, why do my vocals hurt? Ask yourself, what would your vocal sound like if you were doing it with a clean tone, right? So if I do something like with a clean tone, that would be, and I feel a lot of buzz, my voice, there's a slight drop of the larynx. Ever since that last Will Ramos video, I'm like, maybe it's okay to move our larynx more than I thought it was. And so I've been playing around with that a little bit more. But the point is, my voice is very pointed at the front. If you're trying to do any vocal, right? And like, let's say I sounded like this, like that's really choked back. If I do that with clean tone, it sounds choked back, right? So something to think about. But yeah, I'm very impressed with the airflow. I'm very impressed with the fact that at no point it sounds like he's gassing out. And when I hear vocalists holding very, very long phrases, now, I don't have the best ear for this, so I'm not saying for sure, but I always listen to that really small sound of crossfade, right? Stitching together longer phrases or shorter phrases to make it sound like a longer phrase, which, by the way, isn't necessarily cheating. It's just what I listen for. I don't hear any of that here. I could totally be wrong because, again, I never sit at the engineer or the producer's seat. This is just stuff I've seen from being involved in music for a while. But yeah, very cool so far. I want to hear some of those more pitchy highs. Let's see if we get some more of those. Yeah. Yeah. Interesting. Ooh, nice. Do you hear how on that high vocal, this is not the pitch high I was looking for, but it's a really cool vocal to talk about. So do you hear how on that high vocal, we then lost a lot of the and got more of a grrr, right? We got more of a distinct rate of distortion. So rather than like this sort of like, you know, I'm going to use a different vocal because those type of highs, I don't really do them. So I can't really replicate them. I can replicate a lot. That one, not as much. But if I do it like with a low vocal, for example, this is really, it's the same concept, right? Different vocal style, but same concept. So if I do a lot of air pressure, more air pressure, a little less resistance, right? I'm going to get like, hear how that's very like, let's say I want to have more flubbiness. Right? So if we change the amount of resistance to the air pressure, right? And we change the air pressure, we get different rates of distortion. We get different, that's not, rate of distortion is the best term, but you hear what I'm saying. It's less, well, to go back to this example, it's less and more. And that's one thing that like, is really it's a more advanced concept, but it's something that you can play around with if you're comfortable with the baseline vocals, right? Which, by the way, shameless plug, if you're just starting and you don't have the foundation, False Chord Fundamentals, very useful course. I'll link it in the description below. We'll have it up on the website soon. Once we're redoing our website, it looks like garbage right now, but we're working on it. But you can think about, you know, you've got your air pressure and you've got your resistance to that air pressure. So you can change these two levers. Let's do it this way. It makes more sense. You know, we've got how much we're leaning in and how much air we're letting through. How much we're leaning in, how much air we're letting through. So if I do not leaning in very much, not letting much air out, right? That'd be not leaning in very much, letting a lot of air out, right? Leaning in a lot, letting a lot of air out. This is generally not a very good sound. Leaning in a lot, not letting a lot of air out. Right? So that's all the same scream, right? But different balances of levers. And he's doing that really, really well here. Very impressively too, because it sounds like most of his, and again, this is the first time I'm hearing his voice, so everything I say, take with a bit of a grain of salt. But it sounds like a lot of his vocals are based on like a bright mid, and he just takes that and uses it as the bass line for going up and down. Not a super common way to do it, but it sounds really cool actually, and it's kind of refreshing hearing something where I'm like, oh, that's a little surprising. Oh, that's a little surprising. It's perfect for the Black Dahlia Murder. It's perfect. I feel like his performance here is really, you know, and anyway, that's going to be a whole thing. But I think his approach vocally is very respectful of Trevor and the Black Dahlia Murder's legacy. Not that they always have to be stuck in that, but I really like what I'm hearing. That's all I'm trying to say. Let's keep going. He's got kind of another way of like, I love when I pause and it looks like they had a sneeze. I don't know why, it just brings me a lot of joy. Anyway, So he's doing another thing that I really like with Lowe's. I hear Johnny Davey, Job for a Cowboy, do it a lot, and I feel like I don't hear it a lot in modern metal as much as like I used to. So it's always it's one of my favorite sounds. So it's when you take like a false chord, like a basic false chord, A I me and you sort of, like I was talking about earlier, you sort of, rather than going full low, oi, oi, you just sort of think about taking that mid and darkening it, A, and then you sort of like whine while you talk it, right? So I could say like, I don't like taking out the trash. I don't like taking out the trash. I take out the trash every day because I don't want my house smelling weird. I was going to make a joke, but then I was like, it's probably not that funny. So as I get older, my jokes get more like dad jokes. I've got a kid now and I think about them before I speak. And I'm like, that joke's just going to be a cringy dad joke, Mark. Don't say it. But then if you explain the joke, it gets worse. All right, let me save myself. Anyway, let's say I did this like, let's say I did that, darken it without really fully committing to that low, I don't like taking out the trash. Now I'm gonna whine it, I don't like taking out my bestow, right? Without music, it has kind of like a Scooby-Doo sound. But like legitimately, it sounds fucking awesome when these guys do it. And you can kind of hear it if we go back a little bit. Do I want to go back? Yeah, I do want to go back. A really good song to hear this done very properly on is Son of Nihility. How do you pronounce it? Let me know in the comments below. On a Job for Cowboys album, Sun Eater, maybe it is. But he does a lot of this, like, and it sounds so good. I want you to kind of listen for that here. I'll go back to like 220. Also, I don't really know what's going on. They're cooking up Dad's body. He ate some bad beans. He shouldn't have eaten those beans. Shouldn't have done it. Here we go. Recent allies become food, I think he said. Recent allies become food. Sounds cool. Like, that's really impressive. Honestly, that's really impressive how long he holds those phrases and how those phrases change in their opening and lean as he goes. Now, to be clear, part of the reason his vocal goes from like a crunchier sound to a clickier sound could be because he's running out of air. But the thing about it is he's running out of a way. The way he's running out of air is stylish, right? You know what I mean? You can and that's one of the coolest things about metal vocals is like the rules are so few and far between. Does it sound cool? Cool. Is it painful or is it going to damage you in the short or long term? No. If it sounds dope and it's safe, like do whatever you want. Do whatever you want. Like you can do a vocal and let your air fall out, but then like sort of chomp and chew around that, like that air running out. Like why is air running out bad? You could make it sound cool. You could do something like, right? Like, just like snarl out the last bits of air. And then you see like I just spat, whatever. But like that's what I'm saying. It's really cool how he makes that work. It sounds menacing is really the best word I can think of for it. Wow, this bum, and we're done. Yeah, so That was sick. That song was really, really cool. Very Black Dahlia murder. Very Black Dahlia murder in those riffs and those drums, right? A lot of very cool stuff. If this is your first Black Dahlia murder song and you liked it, you're probably gonna like the majority of their discography. My favorite Black Dahlia murder song is Flies off of Miasma, I think is the album. It's the one with the cityscape on it. I think that's Miasma. Necropolis is really good. Death Mask Divine is really good. You know, there are a lot of good songs. But the point is that this was a really good example of how just some basic techniques and some good airflow management can really help you do a lot. It can really make your voice go a very, very long way. And a lot of his lows, we had like that it was a false chord bark. Like that's what it was, right? You know, 8 boys die, and then I start the boys day, me necropolis, right? Which is very different than how Trevor did his vocals, but it still encapsulated the spirit. And this is kind of the last thing I want to leave you, right? Leave you with, right? And I think the biggest takeaway, you know, if we're going to talk less about the specific things that Brian was doing, less about the song itself and more about something that we can take away from it, is that oftentimes I will have students and they will, I don't know, false chord will come very naturally to them and fry is incredibly difficult, or fry is incredibly difficult. I'm sorry, or fry comes really naturally and false chord is really, really, really difficult. And they'll get so, here, let me center out real quick now that we're done with this. I don't like sitting off to the side here. Anyway, and they'll be so like stressed out because they're like, oh, I have to hit that fry sound. And I'm like, you can create sounds that maybe don't sound exactly like fry, but still carry like the spirit of it, right? Or you can like, they're like, oh, I want to hit that nasty false chord or retinoidal low. And I'm like, well, like, listen, like that really deep retinoidal low, it's not a fry scream, but it certainly sounds like TV static. You like one. So if fry is really easy for you, maybe then forcing, you know, slamming your face against a scream that's really hard, do what you can do and use that to emulate the spirit of, it's going to make you more unique anyways. You know what I'm saying? So that's kind of a high horse that I go on. Don't take it, you know, just follow your heart, do what's easiest. And that's kind of the way that I go about things. What does your voice want to do? What is your voice comfortable with? And then we build on that. You know, you're going to get a lot more longevity in the long term. But anyway, yeah, Aftermath, dope song. Very short, very concise, but I love the blasts. I love the extremely fast riffing. I love the long held out sections where he's going high, mid, down to low. That shit's impressive. That would be hard for me, even though I've been doing this for like 14 years. Some of those lengths would be, I'd definitely have to be like, you know, okay, really make sure my breathing's on point, really make sure I'm warmed up. But anyways, if you like this song, definitely check out more of the Black Dahlia Murder on, you know, wherever, you know where they are. And if you like the way I talk about vocals, if you want to hop on the vocal learning bandwagon, feel free to toss us an email by filling out the form at cartervoxacademy.com. And that's all I got for you. That's all I got. I'm actually ahead. Normally I'm behind on my work a little bit, but I'm actually ahead. So I'm going to go play some Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. Many thanks, much love. I'm out.